If you'd like to gain a little extra storage space, consider picking up an old wooden window frame without the glass. I'm flipping over the window frame, facing it good side down, using 8 simple cup hooks from the dollar store that were previously spray painted with black. I am selecting 4 for the next step. I'm also using 2 hanging chains removed from dollar store wire baskets. Going by my penciled marks, I'm screwing a cup hook onto the window frame on each side. I'm now transferring the same hook placement measurement to the other short side of the window and screwing in 2 more cup hooks. I'm now documenting the measurements of the window hanging apparatus so I can transfer it to my desired hanging spot. You'll want to measure the middle of each side of the window as well as the full length from left to right. Choosing the spot on my ceiling, I'm transferring the measurements and screwing 2 cup hooks into the ceiling so I can hang my window frame up. If your ceiling isn't wood like mine, you will likely need to screw into ceiling studs or use anchors, depending on the weight. I'm now gathering up a few random hooks along with some rustic baskets for a starting point. Large S hooks are my favorite. However, I am also hanging up the decor in a few different ways. Another way is to loop some heavier rope together, then close the ends together with wrapped thinner twine. You can also screw cup hooks into the window frame for easier hanging too. I'm using a combination of all of the above plus more for a random rustic look. And you are left with a charming and rustic way to either add additional storage to your space or use it as a way to display your favorite collections. I hope this inspires you to consider picking up an old window frame, short ladder, or even a wooden shutter to create a kitchen ceiling display of your own.
And let's transform these basic wicker baskets into a vintage-inspired look. First things first is you wipe the Vaseline all around the basket where you do not want the white paint to set. Once it has completely dried, wipe it with a wet cloth, and just like that, the paint should come off where the Vaseline was put on. Now that that's complete, let's create a 2-tiered basket hanger for your kitchen where you can put your fruit and other items. You simply wrap twine through the base basket and tie a knot. I did it in 3 different corners in a triangle, and just like that, you have created such a cute vintage-inspired fruit hanging basket.
My neighbor had an old dresser across the street, but I knew I could fix it up, and the first thing I gotta do is get rid of all the rotted and torn up materials. Then I gotta take off all of the hardware and the doors on the bottom. I'm not gonna need those for the transformation I'm gonna make. I also want to get rid of the hardware on the drawers. Now on the top of this, it was pretty beat up. It had been out in the rain and the sun. So I started with 80 grit sandpaper and started going up and down. Once I got it all sanded off, I also needed to go with 120 up to 220. Now sanding produces a lot of dust. So the next thing I did was make sure I got my air hose out and got all the dust off. Got to make sure we get that clean as good as possible. Now I wanted to get rid of the railings that were on the bottom because I don't need those. I want an open concept. So I cut each one of those and pulled them apart. Next, I got some Lawan plywood. This is great for shelving. I wanted to put this on the bottom because it's also waterproof just in case anything spills on it. Once I get it in place, just some small staples will hold it exactly where I need it. Next, it was time to prep for painting. I'm going to fill all the holes from all the hinges and everything like that. And then it's time to go ahead and put the primer on. Primer always goes before paint. You need something to adhere it to the cabinet. The next step was to put some good high quality cabinet paint on there. Once that primer's done, you just go ahead and put all the paint on. This one took 3 coats. Next, it was time for staining. I wanted to add some shelves on the middle, and I wanted to go with a dark stain, so that's why I went with walnut. So I'm going to do all the boards for shelving and that Lawan plywood on the bottom. It's going to get some stain also because I want every one of them to match. Then it was time to do the top. Once it's all sanded down, I put the stain on there, and it took actually 2 coats of stain. You ever see that professional finish that gives it just a durable, clean look? Well, that's what this polyurethane is for. You put that on, and it's going to give it a nice, shiny look to it, and it's going to make it nice and durable. A couple of coats of those. Now it's time back for that middle shelf. I took those boards that I stained earlier, and I put them in place and used a few brad nails to hold them down. Now it's time for some new backing. I got some of that Lawan plywood extra hanging out, so I grabbed some of that and cut it to size. Again, some staples all the way around the edges will hold it in place. Now it's time to get some new hardware. This is really inexpensive and it changes the look, and it's black so it stands out. Now the drawers need some liners in there, because it's kind of rotted out, but it looks good. We're going to close that up. You remember that old dresser in the driveway? Now look at this. What a transformation. I love how it turned into this kitchen island buffet table. It just turned out absolutely amazing. There's no reason to throw an old piece of furniture out when you can look at it, use your imagination, and upcycle it into a work of art. I hope you enjoyed this project as much as I did, and I hope it inspired you to do your own upcycle project.
If you are short on kitchen storage space, here's a creative and functional way to increase it by going up. I'm choosing 3 like-minded reclaimed wood boards I have in my stash, setting them down side by side. Underneath the baskets, I'm penciling in another random edged side, which will become the bottom, then cutting the boards to size using a miter saw. Using a sander, I'm giving the fronts, sides, and ends of each board a light sanding. A cedar strip is being measured, then cut to the width of the 3 boards. I'm then using the cut piece to mark where to cut a second, so I end up with 2. The tops and sides of the wood strips are getting painted in coal black by Fusion Mineral Paint, so they coordinate with the baskets. Some cup hooks, also purchased from the dollar store, are being removed from the package, then pushed into some packing foam to create a stable surface. Using a black metal spray paint, the hooks are getting coated from all sides. While I'm waiting for the cup hooks to dry, I'm placing the painted wood strips across the 2 ends of the 3 wood planks, then penciling in 2 screw marks per board. With the wood strips placed on a scrap board, I'm pre-drilling pilot holes in each penciled area so the wood strips won't split when attaching with screws. Positioning the boards into place, I'm inserting short black screws into each hole, then screwing them in using short bursts with the cordless drill until they are just attached. After attaching the combined boards to a wall, I now have better ability to use a level to mount the baskets. I'm positioning the first basket near the bottom, screwing in 1 cup hook on the far right of the basket, then using a level to check for placement of the second cup hook. Now I'm positioning the top basket in place, this time poking hole placements with the hooks, then screwing them in with the guidance of a level. I'm now attaching the last 2 baskets, positioning them based on the space that's left. I found pinning the smaller baskets into place, leveling them, then poking placement holes with the cup hooks even easier. To chime in with the rustic wood theme, I'm choosing 2 stencils called pallet stamps and shipping crate stamps from Funky Junk's Old Sign Stencils that offer authentic pallet markings. I'm positioning each stencil image where desired, then stenciling them using coal black by Fusion Mineral Paint so the images mimic authentic pallet markings. To add interest to the baskets, I'm using a stencil and felt pen to design some paper labels with random numbers. You could also handwrite accurate dates on the labels. Then simply hang up the labels as desired, load up the baskets with your favorite produce, and enjoy your newly enhanced produce storage that is not only super productive, it looks cool too. I love the various sizes of the baskets, so you have the ability to load them up with just the right sized items to suit. And the crate markings on the wood really give this piece an authentic, interesting look, don't you think? This super functional and beautiful storage solution can also be used in a front entry, office, writing station for a kitchen, bathroom, workshop, or even a bedroom. I hope this inspires you to create a produce organizer of your own.
I had a friend give me an old cabinet, but I have some great ideas for it. First thing I'm going to do is get the drawer out, and I need to change the hardware. I'm also going to take the doors off because I want an open concept. I'm also going to take out the shelves on top. I want to make sure I get as much space as possible on top. Next, I take it outside. I'm going to go ahead and start sanding it with some 80 grit. I want to roughen up the sides. That way the primer sticks to it. What you see here is me spraying on some primer. Paint doesn't like to stick just directly to wood, so you got to prime it to give something for the paint to stick to. I'm going to go ahead and prime it all over except the very inside. 1 good coat will do the job. Now I'm going to switch over to some cabinet paint. Don't skimp on this. You want some good quality cabinet paint. Once you get that on, let it dry, and I'm going to put 3 coats on. That's going to make it really nice and durable. Once the paint is on, I'm going to switch over to some brick paneling. It's easy to cut. I'm going to mark it, and I'm going to start placing this on the inside of the top cabinet there. I can put it in place. I use some glue and some staples to hold it down. Once I get that in place, I'm going to cut out a little square. Now here's the surprise. I'm going to cut this out. And what I'm going to install once it's removed is an electrical box. I'm going to go ahead and wire up some switches and outlets. They're easy to do. I can just follow directions right off the internet. Once I get that light switch and that electrical box installed, I'm going to put a white cover. It kind of blends in with the cabinet top, and it's flat, and I use the box size to make it look really nice when it's put in place. Next, I put a outlet box on the top for a light. Look at that, it's looking really good, and I got this light off Amazon. Next, I'm gonna go back to the drawer and I'm gonna put on some good hardware. I got 3 coats on this drawer also, and it looks really good. Put that in place, and it's time to stick it inside. I'm gonna put a bulb in, and I got this cool neon coffee sign. I'm gonna set that up there. Then I'm also gonna go ahead to the Dollar Tree and buy some decor. All these mugs and baskets, and I'm gonna put my coffee maker in place. And look at this cool holder I got for all my pods. It's just great. Put that in place. It's gonna cover the switch, light up the neon sign, light up the light, and look at this. The great thing about this light cover is it's adjustable. Now it's time for some good old-fashioned hot chocolate. Once I get that all brewed up, oh, look how amazing this turned out. I took a 70-year-old cabinet, and with some love and some patience, I made it look great. And I love the industrial look, and I hope you do too, especially with that neon sign in the back. I think it turned out beautiful. I hope this inspired you to go ahead and upcycle old furniture as you see fit.
Start with 3 small handled trays and 2 strips of wood. Use hot glue to attach one of the trays to one of the wood strips so that the bottoms are all flush. Take the second tray and glue it to the other end of the wood strip. Center the third tray between the top and bottom trays. Glue the second wood strip in place. Now it's time to paint. Use spray paint to apply 2 to 3 coats to all sides of your stand. Add glass jars to the trays, and your storage stand is ready to use. You can fill it with dry goods like coffee, flour, and pasta for your kitchen counter. Decant snacks into the jars and keep in the pantry for easy access.
I was out looking through yard sales and I found this dresser. What I wanted to do was first make sure I brought it up to my level and get all the drawers out so it's easy to work with. Once all the drawers are out, I noticed it was really gross on the inside, and I took my air blower and got it all out. Also, the bottom was actually in rough shape. It had some duct tape, and the shelf was just made of this cardboard material, and I needed to get rid of that. Also, know that I didn't need the middle drawers. The first top one I'm going to keep, but the other ones I'm not. So I used my oscillating tool to take away the framing. Once I got that done though, the next step I wanted to do is take a piece of 1/4-inch plywood, and I'm going to cut that and make my new shelf. That way it's stronger than the cardboard, and it looks good when it gets put in there. All I need to do is mark it off, use my skill saw, and get it cut just to the perfect length. Once I do that, I set it in place, and it looks great. Next step though is to go ahead and prime the whole project. You've got to put on a good primer. If I were to paint it, the paint could actually peel off. So I put this primer on. It's going to hide any stains and allow the paint to adhere really nice. Once I do that, then I also made sure I got the shelf in place with a few brad nails. The next step was to go ahead and put the paint on. Made sure that primer dried overnight, and then I used the paint, and it's a good quality cabinet paint. That's the key. Once I get that all on the sides and rolled on, I made sure I did 2 coats. Next, the perfect solution was to get the shutter out of the garbage can, and I cut it to size. And then I want to paint it. And it would have been a hassle to go ahead and brush it or roll it on, so I used spray paint. It goes on really nice, and it just takes 2 coats. The great thing about using spray paint is it's also an oil-based spray paint, and it gives such a nice satin finish to it. Once I get this side painted, I painted the other. And the great thing was I only needed actually 1 coat on the front of these drawers. I'm also going to put some new hardware on. That way it matches throughout. I'm actually going to put those poles on the front of the shutters along with new hinges, and I'm going to put those on also. Look at this. It's looking actually really good. Now I put some hooks on the side to hang my barbecue tools. Put that down. It's also great to put my wood chips in. I can seal those in the bottom. Anything that I want. Close those doors. They're out of sight. And I'm going to put a cutting board. And look at this. It actually turns out great. It's a side companion to my grill. I think it actually turned great. I don't think this thing could have turned out any better. Instead of throwing this old thing away that we found on the side of the road, we turned it into a beautiful, upcycled outdoor grilling station. I think it turned out great. I hope you like this project too, and let us know what you think. Thank you for watching Home Talk, and we'll catch you next time.